Namaste. Another one of my favorite places and things to do during the lockdown is yoga. And it's appropriate for chapter 3 because chapter 3 is about the external environment. As we learn in yoga, we can't really control the things out there. We can only control our responses. So, like a good strategic manager should, we're going to talk about the external environment. In chapter 3, you should be focusing on learning objectives 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. So only 2, 3, and 4. In chapter 2, you got the roadmap. We talked about vision, strategic plan, mission, values, objectives, balanced scorecard. And in chapter 3, we're going to start looking outside. We're going to plan for the snow or the desert or whatever is going on outside the car. And in chapter 4, we'll look inward. But for now, let's stick to the external environment. In 3.2, you're going to be looking at the 5 forces. Now, if there's anything you need to walk away with from this class, it's the 5 forces model of thinking about external pressure. So you're going to be thinking about pressure from suppliers. So the way that I think about it is there's 5 pressures. I go look upstream towards my suppliers and the competitive pressures that come from them. I look downstream at my pressures from customers. Okay, and then I look at the industry that I'm in and the pressures coming from my rivals. And then I look to my left and I look at for substitute products from outside the industry. So these are substitute products and the pressures coming from those, and then to the right, new entrants. Now, you can memorize the 5 pressures, but it's really difficult to just understand them by talking about them in this abstract way. This is really something that you'll need to take time to understand and apply during your team time, and that we'll spend a lot of time with during our learning community. What you're trying to get at with the 5 competitive pressures is deciding where the competitive pressure is coming from in the industry. What you're trying to decide as a company is whether you should stay in that industry or whether you should go try to find profit in a different industry. And you're going to try to gauge what is the pressure and how can I respond to those? How can I use competitive weapons? Are there complementers that make it more lucrative for my product or service to stay in this industry? And finally, what are the change drivers or the drivers of change that might affect this industry? Excuse me. Sorry, yoga does that to me. In learning objective 3.3, and you should start to see a figure on your screen, figure 3.1, you're looking at a strategic group map. Now, what you're looking at here on one axis is the price, service, and ambiance. It's in 3 categories, low, moderate to high. What you're looking at on the bottom axis is geographic coverage. This should be on your screen. Few, many, and international. What you're looking at are various companies in the casual dining industry. And the size of the circle, it reflects the influence of those companies on the industry. So if it's a small circle, it's not a lot of influence. If it's a big circle, it's a lot of influence. Now, the cool thing is once you've done this strategic map, if you look at the crowded spots, then that's an area where there might be a lot of competitive pressure. So on your map, for example, if you look at the few locations, that entire column is actually quite crowded. So we know that that might not be a good industry to stay in. The opportunity is where there's space. See? Namaste. Where there's space, and there's opportunity and space at many locations, high price. So the strategic group map can help us do that assessment of the industry, and you'll be completing one of those also during your team time. And then in 3.3, we're going to start looking at key success factors. What does every company in this industry need to respond to? That's a key success factor, whether it's technology, whether it's tariffs, whether it's changing exchange rates. You have to think about what in the macro environment is affecting the industry. So chapter 3, you're looking at the external environment, the macro environment. You're looking at substitutes and complements, at pressures from rivals, at pressures from new entrants. And you're trying to assess whether the profitability in that industry will maintain your firm and help it stay competitive in the long run.